Well, trial monitoring, you heard it in the two introductions, is a very powerful tool. We've seen that also in other countries. We've seen it here in Montenegro. It's a very powerful tool for judicial reform, as it can help identify both the strength and the gaps in the judicial system. And also, of course, generate important recommendations to improve. That's the whole, that is what the exercise is about. Preventing torture, and that's also good news. This is part of Chapter 23. And that also means that we have now a special leverage because Montenegro wants to close this chapter, and that's why I think we ought to use the period of time we have in order to make the maximum progress on those important topics. One of the closing benchmarks for this chapter 23 is the implementation of the recommendations of the European Committee, the CPT, of prevention of torture, inhuman and degrading treatment, and the swift judicial follow-up. I think this is very, very important, the swift judicial follow-up in cases of ill treatment. So what we need to see is progress in order to be able to close the chapter, but of course equally, if not more important, we want to see the progress also, especially for Montenegro's society as a whole. Apart from that being important in the context of the European integration process, both issues are also part of the growth plan, of the reform agenda, meaning that also money attached to making visible progress on these two chapters. So this is an additional incentive in order to make progress. When it comes to CPT, what we have seen in 24, unfortunately, we had less controls, internal controls by the Ministry of Interior. I think we don't have the figures yet for 25, but I'm looking forward, maybe you have them already now as part of your report, what happened in 25, because in 24 we had seen quite a drop when it comes to internal controls related to CPT. On gender-based violence, maybe a couple of more issues and points from my side. It was mentioned before, what really helped us was that both the prosecution but also the Supreme Court issued recommendations, not only recommendations but guidelines for the sentencing in cases of sexual and gender-based violence, and also from the prosecution's side, same thing. This is something I want to underline here. It helped, and looking forward to the findings, what you're coming up with today. But what I've seen, and this is anecdotal evidence, obviously, but when I go around, I always meet with NGOs, and usually there are also colleagues involved who are working on gender issues, on women's empowerment, on domestic violence. I was in Plevna last week, met, what was her name, Sabina? Yes. When we were in Nikšić, we met those SOS Nikšić, and from both I got the feedback there is an improvement. So these guidelines actually had an effect, and I think this is something positive. Last point, maybe from my side, two additional important issues when it comes to, and these are victims' rights and access to justice. Victims' rights provide a practical measure of how justice systems respond to individuals and whether reforms truly work beyond legislation, strengthening trust and social stability. I commend here, and this happened at the end of last year, I commend the Montenegrin authorities for adopting the first national victims' rights strategy and the action plan. This happened in December of last year, December 25, and this is a good milestone for the implementation of one of the closing benchmarks for Chapter 23. When it comes to access to justice, this must be practical and effective, not merely theoretical. Legal aid plays a vital role in turning rights on paper into real protection, especially for victims of torture and gender-based violence. And yes, and finally, let me also say that access to justice requires independent courts, timely proceedings, because justice delayed is justice denied, and justice requires high-quality judgments supported by training, digital tools, very importantly, adequate resources, and also consistent case law. So this is, in a nutshell, from my side. Overall, There has been some progress also in connection with the guidelines we have seen, but of course we need to see considerably more if we want to close the benchmarks on those important chapters, chapter 23.